Our next reader is the author of the 2014 supernatural thriller 13 Secret Cities, as well as the erotic LGBTQ book series How to Kill a Superhero, which he writes under the pseudonym Pablo Green. His books cut across the genres of fantasy, sci-fi, and suspense, and his characters explore isolation, loss, and their elusive quests for consciousness. He attended the Medill School of Journalism at Northwestern, where he currently serves as an adjunct professor in the graduate program. His next novel, Nine Lords of Night, a new crime thriller set in Chicago and New York City, is scheduled to release in 2017. And Gold, the fourth book in the How to Kill a Superhero series, will also launch next year. Please welcome Cesar Torres.
I'm not one of those tall people. All right, welcome. So there's two things you need to know before I start. One is that what I'm going to read to you is probably not safe for work. Hi, YouTube, and say hi to Mom, who's here. My mom's here. So just want to get that out there. So NSFW. And the second thing you need to know is that I'm reading from my upcoming book, Nine Lords of Night. It's set in the same universe as 13 Secret Cities. And there is one place that is factual in this book, which is Big Chicks. If you've ever been there, it's really great. Gay bar, queer bar in Uptown. And I care a lot about Uptown. In fact, we just had two real shootings there yesterday. One person passed away because of the shootings. And so that really comes down to the themes of things I care about in this city and things that I hope can change. So, I'm reading for you just an excerpt from the novel. It's not the first chapter. It's kind of at the beginning. Felix washed his hands and dried them with a paper towel. He ran a hand through his hair and pushed on the bathroom door. As he walked out, he noticed that the back door of the bar was shut. Usually it stayed open, so people could have a smoke in the back patio and walk out to the parking lot to retrieve their cars at the end of the night. But tonight, a recently installed metal deadbolt kept the door sealed. He peered out the small window into the patio, empty. In the distance, he heard a police siren tear through the night, and the patio furniture flickered in blue as a patrol car raced through the alley. He needed to get back to his drinking, though. As he walked past the nude photographs and art collections on the walls, he couldn't help but notice how empty the bar felt. Tonight, it was just an empty shell with a faint disco pulse coming through the speakers. Without people, the Big Chicks felt bald, awkward, and maybe a little haunted. Felix took a seat on the stool and cupped his cocktail in one hand. His new friend at the bar, the only other person here besides the bartender, nodded his way. "Did you see that the back door is locked?" he said to her. She nodded. "They had a break-in last week. Burglary." "But it was personal," said the bartender from the other side of the bar. He never looked up from his smartphone as he tapped the screen, but he was definitely talking to Felix and the woman. "It was fucking personal, and I'm really getting tired of this shit. You see, some neighborhood cops like to come in here for a drink from time to time, so naturally, the pieces of shit that broke in through the back wanted to send a message to us about what they think about friends of the police. That's why they trashed the place without taking any valuables." The bartender went back into the Facebook hole into which he was descending. Felix took out his cards from his coat. Through the speakers above, Peaches rapped about pain and how to get rid of it. Felix palmed the deck again, enjoying its weight in his left hand. He shuffled 6 times, enjoying the whisper of the cards against the edge of the bar. He flipped up the top card and held it against the edge of the bar. He flicked it forward and backward, and the woman leaned in to get a better look. The ace of clubs. "You know, that card won't do anything to ward off vampires," she said. Her owl glasses, dreadlocks, and curated vintage dress reminded Felix of a hipster librarian, if Librarians led secret lives as barflies. She nursed a double stein of lager. What vampires are you talking about? He said. The pink neon light set into the walls gave the woman's hair a cotton candy texture. Bags drooped under her eyes, and it was clear that she needed Felix's drinking company as much as he needed hers. You're pulling my leg, right? She said. If by vampires you mean the vigilantes outside, those are not vampires by any stretch, Felix said. Oh, shit. And I thought I wasn't going to have to talk about the vigilantes tonight. Have you ever seen them? Felix said. Of course I have, and you have too. They're everywhere in Uptown. Well, how do you know they're real vigilantes? Well, there's rumors out there that they have a dress code, sort of like the dress codes that the gangs have. No one knows for sure, but I'll tell you what. I'm pretty sure I walked right past a group of vigilantes when I stepped off the L tonight. Felix frowned. A dress code makes no sense. It would be a dead giveaway for the police. Look, she said, I don't think these men give a damn anymore about what the police think. That's the whole point. Maybe it was the vigilantes that broke into this bar, Felix said. Maybe, maybe not. Only the ghosts of this place would know. Peaches faded out, and the pixies told a story about the risks in a town full of strangers. The music was much too loud, considering how empty the bar was, but none of the three people made any effort to make any changes to the volume. I just can't believe that it's come down to this in Chicago, Felix said. The woman moved in closer to Felix so she could sit side by side with him. I'm going to tell you something, but I gotta keep my voice down because the bartender's a white dude and he's not ready for this type of download, she said. Felix wanted to giggle, but before he could, wordless thoughts about political correctness shut him up. Look, she said, Chicago Police Department Officer Doppler was shot 6 times in the head, execution style, by vigilantes, and the grieving is not stopping anytime soon. In fact, the vigilantes are going to shoot more police officers soon. The city will retaliate by dispatching more and more militarized police units. They'll use the drones to get into Englewood, the West Side, and this part of Uptown. And when the drones are not sufficient, they'll go in and terminate standoffs using the SWAT teams and their robots. We will soon have a mini civil war in places like Chicago, Mississippi, New Orleans. But being black in this country means we have to teach our kids how to avoid being killed by the police, among many other teachings we have to do. And through, we'd still like to say that Black Lives Matter. So I don't know what matters anymore. Yeah, but surely there's some better way to arrive at answers. Oh, you really think so? You tell that to our fucking dead, she said. An uncomfortable silence swelled between Felix and the woman. Her eyes appraised him as if evaluating a transaction that had yet to pass. It made him very uneasy. You said something about vampires, Felix said. The woman grinned at him as if he had just said something very humorous. I did. You don't want to mess with vampires. He couldn't tell if she was being ironic or not. The woman's eyes followed Felix's hands as he riffled the deck. And you brought a pack of cards to the bar. Are you a magician? No, but my ass is, Felix said. Is that right? A smile spread across the woman's face. Felix smiled back. Maybe he had brought the conversation back to a happier place because he needed a happier place. My ass can make any dick or large object disappear, never to be seen again. woman laughed heartily and reapplied her lip liner. So, that means you're a king among bottoms. Is that right? Felix liked the sound of that phrase. A king among bottoms. Useful, yes, as a status among his fellow gay men, but also an appropriate way of labeling the place he really held in the world. He was at the bottom of the heap, overeducated and privileged in some key ways, but also so underemployed that he lived below the poverty line. He had spent 3 years on the job market, and he had no more viable options left. He was king among bottoms, all right. I guess you could say that, Felix said. You know, I had a boyfriend that liked it when I pegged him, the woman said. Oh yeah? He was one of those guys with zero body fat, arms like noodles, and a hard jaw. The kind of guy that breaks hearts with that underfed, Iggy Pop, unwashed armpit kind of look. Hung like a wrecking ball. One day, he brings me into his bedroom and drops his jeans. I just got this done at the tattoo parlor, he says. I look down at his skinny white ass. He shows me a brand new tattoo of a Venus flytrap. So detailed and green it looks real around his asshole. Kinky, Felix said. A few weeks later, once the tattoo heals, he takes me out to dinner. We split 2 bottles of sake, and in the Uber, on our way to his apartment, he whispers in my ear, I want you to peg me, Joanne. My kind of man, Felix says. So, we get to his place, and he has everything ready in the bedroom, like a champ. Lube, a glass of wine, Solange and Luther Vandross on the playlist, and a strap-on dildo that he bought just for me. He asks me to put it on, and he gets up on all 4s on the bed. He's proud, ready, and happy as Christmas. Then I look down at his asshole, and I realize what the tattoo is really all about. I am looking at the Venus flytrap, and it's literally ready to eat the dildo I am wearing around my waist. His ass is going to eat my dick. Damn, girl. You really hit the lottery with this one. Well, I indulged him. We had a good time. And as time went on, he asked me to peg him more and more often, virtually every night. I didn't mind the pegging, but each time I got in there, he would make me look again at the tattoo of the carnivorous plant. You know, it's kind of psychedelic, you know, sticking your schlong into a plant and fucking it until the plant is screaming your name. And each time we had sex this way, the way that he craved, I remembered thinking to myself, damn, I love vampires. You know, it's sort of a thing with me, you know? Vampire movies, vampire books, I love them all. And nothing. We stopped fucking. I dumped him a few weeks later. But why? Felix said. I got scared. Things had gone too far. It went like this. We would always arrive at the pegging after a bottle or 2 of wine, sometimes after a joint. And as the night went on, and toward the end of the relationship, I'd feel a chill run down my back as I locked in my strap-on before doing him. Around that time, I was starting to have really bad dreams. Dreams of hanging, and dreams of women with no faces. Sometimes I would break out in a horrible sweat in the middle of the pegging, terrified of something I couldn't even name. I started feeling nauseous when I looked at myself in the mirror with that red silicone dildo jutting out from me. But the thing was, I wasn't scared of my boyfriend. He and his fantasies were harmless in the end, nothing but kid stuff. Instead, I got scared of myself and my fantasies. Why, Felix said. Because I liked it too much. The idea of fucking a carnivorous plant, maybe even an alien that looks like a plant, having it chew up my prosthetic dick was maybe too much of a good thing. The violence in this kind of fucking reminded me of the sick images I like to watch in my vampire movies. Torn flesh, blood gushing everywhere, people screaming. It's the desperation right before death arrives and the creature in the shadows tears out your throat. So I got kind of scared. Felix stared into his glass. He liked talking to this woman. She had no idea she would be the last person he talked to before he ended his life later tonight. Would he think about her pegging story when he put the barrel of the Glock 19 in his mouth? And would his last thoughts force him to think about how a strap-on dildo inside a Venus flytrap wasn't all that different than a cold steel gun barrel fucking his own mouth? He would pull the trigger, and then it would all just vanish, and he would vanish. He shuffled the deck one more time, and he put the cards back in his coat pocket. He hoped she wouldn't expect him to disclose his inner thoughts and his fantasies because he was not going to share. Keeping her distracted should be pretty easy. All he had to do was to keep asking her to tell her story, which had now become more timely for him than ever before.